Hey there. My name is Meredith Turney. I'm a coach, consultant, and teacher for organizations, companies, employees, and entrepreneurs on how to bring more conscious leadership to work. I believe the future of work is more freedom and abundance for everyone, especially virtual work. So, my newsletters, videos, and trainings are really focused on helping you provide conscious leadership for your team and find passion in your work. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 keys to success for remote managers. As we move into a more service-oriented economy, many organizations are discovering the benefits of remote work for their companies and their employees. And the current coronavirus pandemic is really rushing a lot of companies towards this inevitable future of work much more quickly than they had anticipated. And there really is an urgent need for managers to know how to best lead their teams in a virtual setting. Thankfully, there are experienced coaches like me who can help employers, employees, and entrepreneurs establish systems and structures for remote team success. And in this video, we're going to talk about the 5 keys to success for remote managers. So let's get started. Number 1, purchase the right virtual team tools. This is really important when you're just getting started. Managing remotely is far more complex than just sending a team member home with a laptop. It requires establishing consistent systems and structures for replicating the things that make in-person office work much more successful. So think about all the things that you usually do in an office. You've got meetings, hallway conversations, client meetings. You have all the tools you need like a desk and internet and all those things that you usually have in an office. Well, now think about how you can replicate those things as much as possible in a virtual setting for each of your employees. Yeah, the vibe is a little different in a virtual setting, but it is possible to recreate the communication necessary for your team to be successful. And in future videos, I'll cover some of the really successful tools that you can use, like Zoom, time tracking tools, desks and chairs, everything's like that that your employees might need. But for now, no, think about all the ways that you can replicate what you're doing in an office place and how you could then replicate that in a office setting. Okay, so that was number 1. Number 2 is set clear employee expectations. One of the fears that often prevents companies from moving to distributed teams is that employees will slack off or the productivity will decline. And that really is an unfounded fear, as research shows that employees are actually much more productive at home. In future videos, I'll talk about how to manage specific employee needs based on each employee, because they're all different and they have different needs. But for now, just think about the different kinds of support that you're going to need in a remote setting for each of your employees and the expectations that they're going to need to hear and know so they can work to the best of their ability for success for your team. Set very clear objectives and expectations and deadlines for your team. Do you expect them to be on call during certain hours of the workday? Or does it really matter what hours they work as long as they're finishing the projects and meeting the goals that you have for them? A concept that I like to share with clients is commander's intent. That's really important for employees to know when they're making progress towards your goals for them. And that doesn't mean that you tell them exactly what to do. You're basically telling them, this is what we want to accomplish. Now you have the freedom to go out and accomplish it however you see fit based on your budget and your means, as long as you are sticking with commander's intent. So I encourage you to research that topic and learn more about commander's intent, or I can certainly talk about that with you in a coaching session. Another thing to keep in mind is really define roles, responsibilities, and expectations, or R&Es. Are they in writing? Do people know what they're actually going to be working on every single day? I know some employees in remote settings will actually print out their R&Es and they will put them on the wall in front of them so that every day they stay focused on those. They know exactly what they need to prioritize for that day. And then if they have questions, they can reach out to their supervisor or their manager and game plan if there's something they need to work through. But it's really important to have all those things in writing, especially in a remote setting. That was number 2. Number 3, lead by example. Some of the most successful remote managers are those who are vulnerable. They share their struggles and they have a virtual open door policy with their team. Advances in technology continue to make remote work increasingly easy for most teams. But it's still a relatively new form of work and management. So there's going to be a lot of learning here as you're moving towards this new form of work. So be honest with your team. If you're trying out a new tool or a system, and I'm sure they're going to want to try it out too. So just assume good intentions for your team. They want this virtual team to work out just as much as you do, especially in our current environment. Your team is really looking to you for guidance on how to navigate working remotely. So continue to invest in their professional development. and that can be via webinars or conferences. Even if you don't see them in person as often, you're still their leader and investing in their personal growth as professionals. So do think about all the things that you might have done in an office place. You can do that in a remote setting. Just think about how to translate that for them. So that was number 3. Number 4, prioritize team building and mental health. The dreaded term team building often cues eye rolling for employees. They envision trust falls and office Olympics. But really what team building is all about, it's really meant to foster greater collaboration and trust. A team that knows each other and is committed to the same mission and has built trust, they can accomplish far more than an individual can. So team building in a virtual environment can take many forms. Some teams have budget for a few in-person meetings a year. So if you can swing it, a few of those team meetings can be very helpful for connection. But otherwise, if you have a very distributed team that makes it very hard for them all to get together, think about things that will foster greater connection for them, like a weekly virtual happy hour where everyone can log into something like Zoom or Skype. They can share their beverage of their choice. Maybe you can even have a facilitated conversation on a fun topic, like what was their high-low for that week? Or what is their big goal in life? They want to climb Mount Everest, or do they want to adopt 10 puppies? Whatever that might be for them. You really get to know them better. Some of those personal connections that we miss in hallways, you can recreate those in a virtual setting. Just remember that a strong team also supports the mental health of its members. Sometimes working remotely can feel a bit lonely, especially if it's just you in your house all day or in your apartment. So remember, regular check-ins with your team and among teammates will help with supporting each other's mental health and their emotional state, and it could head off any potential health issues, mental health issues that could come up from being isolated or lonely. So consider at least a weekly video call with each team member so you can physically see them and see how they're doing, talk to them, and just see how things are going. So that was number 4. Number 5, create team reporting systems. So depending on the kind of product or service that your organization provides, you're going to have unique measures of success and necessary reporting requirements. But this reporting frequently occurs via meetings that we have in person, right? So consider ways that you can collect that data and report on it. There are a lot of tools out there that can help you upload and track information like Salesforce or similar platforms, and they can really become important tools for tracking progress for a remote team. One distributed team that I work with, they send weekly reports in on key projects and the progress they're making. It's then compiled by one team member and distributed organization-wide via an email. This team also provides a daily check-in via their Basecamp, so everyone knows what each team member is working on that day, what their phone calls are. The objective here is just to make sure every employee knows basically what's going on, what's required of them, and how to collect that information so that there's not these last-minute scrambling on how do I collect this data, especially in a remote setting if you're not having in-person meetings. So it's really just to set those expectations and then put everyone at ease. So those are the 5 keys to success for remote managers. And I just want to encourage you that as a manager transitioning your team to remote work, there will be learning opportunities. There's a learning curve. And the main thing to remember above all is clear communication. So as long as you're in regular contact with your team and you're replicating as much of those in-person interactions to which you're accustomed, you're going to begin to build a solid team that operates at peak performance in a virtual environment. And I wish you the best of luck as you're transitioning your remote team. I also wanted to remind you that I will soon be launching a training series for employees and employers on how to hone their remote work skills. This is going to be for managers, how to provide conscious leadership in a remote setting, also for employees who are adjusting to your remote setting. I'm here to help you. I'm going to have some great training materials for you soon, so just stay posted for that. And to find out when those materials are coming out, you can sign up for my newsletter on my website, meredithturney.com. On my newsletter, I send out pretty much daily updates on best practices and key insights on working in a remote team, the future of work, virtual teams, things like that. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you on a future video.